Well, I'm at my spot in the dark. Sitting here waiting for it to get light up and just listening and hoping that an elk's gonna bugle before I make any sounds at all. That would be real good. If not, then I might let out one bugle from here before I start my stalk along the mountain. It's the best thing to do, get in your spot an hour before seeing light and just sit and listen and have your coffee. Alright, here we are back in the man cave. Holy, that was pretty dicey day yesterday. That was a peak day for sickness for me. Holy. I was almost committed to going to the doctor today, but I fought it off and I'm not going. Slept a little bit last night. I was probably up. I remember being up at 2 o'clock, midnight, 3:30 in the morning. I was outside in the freaking hot tub about 3 times. Could help my breathing better. When they finally woke up this morning, I was hawking up that nasty ass shit. And I'm on the mend now, I can tell. But unfortunately, Sarah's on her way. Shitty. She's got the scratchy throat and the runny nose and the aches yesterday, so here we go. Her turn. Shitty deal. But anyway, it's kind of handy when I just use the laptop to record these. I can move the sucker anywhere. Mix it up, you know? Haven't had the mask looking at the camera for a while. That thing's a little bigger than it looks. Here, check it out. Check how big this sucker is. That's a big mask, right? It's a big chunk of mask. Mystery mask. Don't know who carved it. And no, that deer hide's the very first deer I ever harvested on my own. My very first one. Got it by myself with my bow and arrow. Right in the heart. Packed about on my back. Now, what's going on in the world today? Lots going on in the world. I was listening to a wise senior member of our society, meaning the world, the people, last night during my episodes of Not Sleeping. And he was pointing out how voting doesn't matter. He said, voting doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The voting doesn't matter. The people who are in charge every time, no matter the outcome anyway. And I kind of thought about it for a bit. I'm like, damn it, it's true. Right? So far it's true. We'll see what comes, but so far it's true. Then a quick shout out to our friends in Germany. 16 of the opposition nominees, 16, have mysteriously died. Mysteriously died. 16 people opposing the current, in politics, opposing the current regime in Germany have died. In your face, right? In your face. Crazy. Anyway, there you go. A couple things that stand out from what I've been listening to the past night. Now let's listen to this from the people. Sent it to me. I was going to go down to the river today, but then I said, hold on a minute, you dumbass. You're just starting to feel better. Doesn't mean you go run around. So I fought it off and stayed home. I shot my bow a few times today, though. It's always good just to shoot it a dozen times. That's it, and I put it away. You get far better practice shooting a little less, just so you know. Maui's Big Cat is the title of this email sent in to us. Hi, Steve, Steve. Period. Hi, Steve. I like your readings of the fireside stories sent in. Uh-oh, might it be in for some typos, maybe. Here's one of mine. Maui had a big cat in 02, 03, and again in 08. I just recently heard of a sighting in the West Maui Mountains. There was no joke. This was no joke. Thoughts were leaning to an escaped exotic cat. I think not, and here's why. It is something else. An experiment, much like the belief of bringing wolves back to Yellowstone in 95 or 6. I spoke over the phone with a nice woman who claimed she was the number one reason wolves were released in Yellowstone. I believe your story as she owned a lot of land with ancient last stands of forests on the remote side of Maui. She talked like she was proud and committed to this task of wolf repopulating the West and was pleased with the results so far. I recently saw a PBS special called Wolfland that you may find interesting. So that's what I think has happened with the big black cats being turned loose in areas that might need help with other species control. Maui is overrun with axis deer, wild boar, and Hawaii goats, all with no predators. A few years after my last encounter with this cat, I saw an animal program on TV about 2 big black cats in Australia, with pictures. They're not supposed to be big cats there either. Probably kangaroo control. So I think this is about experiment, as these areas need a predator other than man culling them out. These cats could easily be shipped by boat and released in the dark. I'm not pointing a finger, but the possibility seems strong that someone with money and a vision is on a mission. So my encounter with the cat took place in 08 on a large cattle ranch on the side of a dormant volcano at 3,000 feet elevation. A good friend was living in the ranch home with her 2 boys and was worried. But not wanting the kids to get the kids excited, called me and said, "The big cat is back." They had heard it for several nights in the forest right next to the house. Naturally came right over. As it was getting dark, I went to the spot armed with only a pig stabber my mountain brother made for me. My mountain man brother made for me. And soon found the large tree she had mentioned and immediately thought it be perfect for a big cat. Just then, 10 yards from me on the other side of the tree, I heard a big cat come down the tree and leap onto the ground, heading away from me under the tall brush in the direction of the horses, which are all standing at the water tank where the pasture starts. I couldn't see or pursue through the thick brush, but I knew the horses were in danger. Just then I heard a horse screaming bloody murder as the rest rumbled around. It was over quickly as the cat was outnumbered 4 or 5 horses to 1 big cat. I went back to report what happened. The next day I met the owner with the horses. He then showed me a bite mark that left almost a 1-inch deep puncture and scrape marks above the front knee as the horse moved away. The horse owner was a farrier and his wife a vet. And it wasn't their first encounter either. The cat came back 2 years in a row during calving time. I think I'll stop here. Last heard of a sighting about 3 months ago, this time deep in the West Maui Mountains, across the valley from the ranch. Perfect climate and terrain for long-term experiments with big cats. Keep the peace, black cats matter. Aloha from Hawaii. Interesting, odd, weird. Tell you what, if you want, even send this email to your friends, the farrier, the people that own the horse, and maybe they got some pictures and they'd like to send them over. I'd like to see that. And also, if a cat, my brain's just hard in my head. There's so much I could say on this. An experiment with a cat in Hawaii sounds a little bit out there to me, especially with just the pure task of getting the hogs and the axis deer down. That would be impossible for one cat. You're going to need at least, you need a large population of predators to put the hammer down on those animals. I know, what's it here? I think Wildlife Biologist told me here, once an elk herd hits 60, even poaching doesn't matter. You're not going to wipe them out. Here in British Columbia, the Roosevelt elk. I don't know, recall the exact statement he shared with me. It's just that he said that. Once it gets up to 60 animals, it's pretty tough for them to not repopulate and keep going. But black cats in Hawaii, first I've ever heard of that. So, sounds like this thing's around there quite often, and he wants to eat. And cats are easy to get on trail camera. All right? So, how about a challenge set out to you? Go get him on camera. Shouldn't be hard. It's easy to bait them, and no, they don't need fresh meat. I explained that a while back about the rotten meat and where I fed that one cat and her 3 kittens. But the one thing that is alarming about cats, which a lot of people don't realize, is they are I call them sleaze bags myself. I refer to our mountain lions, our pumas, our cougars here. I refer to them as sleaze bags because they're so opportunistic. They're so dirty, sleazy in that way because they're smart. Whereas the black bears, the ones that chew on the odd kid, I just call them dumb as a stick. A black bear is so stupid, it doesn't know what it's going to do next. That's how dumb they are. But cats aren't. They're very calculating, and they're sleazy opportunists. The amount of kids that have been chewed on here on Vancouver Island is out to lunch. Especially when you know how they do it. You know, this is a big old cat here. Big old cat. And you can tell by his teeth. Oops, hold on a minute. His teeth are all worn right down. There's not much left of this old boy. The big old male cougar. See that? See his front canines? They're all rounded right down, ground right down. This is a big cat. And how cats normally kill is they puncture the skull with their with the canines, right? They puncture the skull. And this cat, you can see he survived being chomped in the head. Look at those holes. See those holes in the top of the skull? There. And there. That is way across the table here. Hold on. There we go. There we go. Those 2 holes, there and there, are from him getting in a fight with another male cougar sometime in his life. And when I brought this in to my friend to clean it up for me, the tip of the tooth was broken off and still in that hole from the cat that just about killed him. Crazy, right? Male cats kill male cats nonstop. But anyway, I'm going to share this before. I mean, up in, I think it's Kayuka, there's a couple native kids, 3 native kids playing on a logging road, and they're going underneath the culvert, underneath the logging road for fun, coming up the other side, and you can see where the big cat walked over to the end of the culvert after the kids went in, waited for him, and then sunk his fangs right into that little kid's skull and killed him and dragged him away. There's another one, Pachena Beach. I've taken you guys to Pachena Beach. It's near where I keep my boat. Campers there looked over a 5-year-old kid getting dragged across the riverbank by a cougar. Had him by his head. Where else? Camp attendees. What do you call them? You know, when you have the kids go to summer camp, and then you got your counselors? You know, the older kids, the teenagers, the ones in their 20s that are taking care of the kids in their summer camp. Well, anyways, there's a bunch of them up by Camp Thunderbird. This is between Victoria and Souk on Vancouver Island. And a cat decided it wanted one of the kids. So he came down and clamped on one of the kids. And the poor camp counselor, or why is my brain fried? You know what I'm talking about, was beating the cat with a stick. Finally let go of the kid, and this cat menaced the counselor and all the other kids all the way back down the trail to the cabins till they got all the kids in the cabins. They wanted that kid. Once they decide they want to kill their prey, they don't see anything else. They tunnel vision. I guess I'm babbling a little bit, aren't I? I'm just saying, experiment with a big cat in such a small zone. Ooh. There's some risks there. Bold statement to make without actual proof, too, right? But anyway, you can get those suckers on trail camera. Do it. There's tons of access deer there. Go get one. Roadkill, whatever, shoot one. Hang it up at a branch. Right where they see it all the time, around the same time of year, and leave some cameras there, and you'll get it on film. Who knows how it got there? I know with cats and exotics, especially after being in Texas, especially when we went to the YO Ranch last spring and went to that auction where they auctioned off. The shit they were auctioning off was incredible. I couldn't believe my eyeballs. Animals from all over the world, but going to different ranches. But anyway, while we were there, they did tell us of that 2 cats they knew of that escaped. One place during a storm, I guess. A huge tree had been blown over. Boom, smokes the fence. Uh-oh, a pair of leopards got out. See ya. Whew. Oh man, those cats must be having fun right now. And if they've been seen, nobody's been talking about it loudly because I haven't heard about it. Any of you around the YO Ranch or areas ever heard of a leopard being sighted outside the fences? Well, if you have, that's probably them. But haven't heard nothing, right? But I know with people with money, there's a lot of people with money who've had, pet lions and tigers? What an irresponsible, dumbass thing to do, don't you think? So irresponsible. Oh, I want to get a lion, man. It'll be so cool. I want a pet lion. Idiot. Anyways, I'm babbling. Try to get that sucker on a picture of that cat. I'd even go there to do it if I had time. I love those challenges. I'd even do it if I had time. I'd fly out there and go snoop around. Maybe whack a few access deer and bring them home for the freezer. That'd be good. I know I've seen there's a handful of the mainstream internet hunters have gone there shooting access deer with their bows. Next email. My experiences have been much different than most. Hey Steve, I've come to enjoy all that you're doing with How to Hunt. I fully understand your approach to the Sasquatch topic. Keep up the good work. On with my story. All right, man. Appreciate the good words. I've seen 2 Sasquatch while hunting. The first situation, I was in a stand, and the second on the ground against a tree. On each encounter, the creatures seemed to have also been on the hunt. In both instances, when they saw me, they just turned and left. My first encounter was in Ohio deer hunting from a tree stand, and the second was in Colorado elk hunting. When the creatures saw me, they just left the area. In Ohio, it just slipped out as quietly as it slipped in. Colorado was much different. This one saw me against a tree, turned and ran. After hearing all the bad encounters hunters have had, I'm left puzzled as to why each creature responded by just leaving. I'm certainly okay with this and very thankful for the outcome. I'm not afraid of them, but I do respect them. And since these experiences, if I see evidence of a Sasquatch, I simply respect their home and leave. There are plenty of places to hunt and fish. No need to walk into their home and take their food. I wouldn't be happy if someone invaded my home either. I fly fish a lot nowadays and often see sign, even an occasional footprint while fishing. I've never seen Sasquatch while fishing, but do have an occasional rock thrown my way. The rock throwing is never malicious. It's more like I'm told that's far enough. When this happens, I simply fish my way back to the car and there are no issues. And I agree with you that these creatures are intelligent creatures. They can reason and communicate. I don't understand why my encounters are this way, except they may be able to sense that I'm no threat to them. I don't go looking for them, and I don't need to. I know they exist, I know they exist, and I just respect them and leave them alone. Well, that's all I have for you. Not anything exciting, just my story. Thanks for being an encouragement and a voice for those of us who find ourselves looking at a Sasquatch. Buddy. Thanks, buddy. I wouldn't mind hearing a little more detail in what they look like, what those two look like that you saw. How long they look at you. What color were they? How big? You know what I mean? Just the usual shit. Why not? I mean, we've heard it all a million times, but we still want to hear the details, right? Did they have a surprised look of, expression of surprise when they saw you? Like, oh shit, didn't have a clue you were there look on their face, Did you hear anything afterwards when they ran? Did you hear the old trees getting beat sound? Or not? You tell your friends, you know anybody else has seen them, If you're still hanging out, man, email me again one day if you get a chance, and good luck hunting, too. Be safe out there, and I appreciate your time you just donated here. Now, who do we have here? There's no subject here for the title in this email. Hey, Steve. First off, I found your channel a few months ago and absolutely love the no bullshit that you express. I find it refreshing. Excuse me. Let me say first off, I'm not an American or a Canadian, and I have no experience of hunting in those countries or experience with the North American Sasquatch. I am a self-confessed cryptozoology researcher, which isn't by choice. I've had so many weird encounters, it just begs belief, but hey, that's me. Call me crazy or delusional, but a lot has happened to me and some of these whilst out hiking. I'm from South Wales, UK. I grew up rural and love the outdoors. South Wales is full of valleys, mountains, and woods, and an endless amount of things such as hiking, fishing, and hunting. And I would often at a certain age hike alone, which might not have been the best of choices. One particular day, I was on my way back from an all-round trip, and walking across my friend's land, which is on top of a mountain, I followed the trail by the woods line like many times previous. I had my backpack, water, food, torch, compass, sleeping bag, first aid kit, and my knife. UK gun laws are effy here, and well, I wasn't on a hunting trip and doesn't warrant carrying a firearm. I'm not going to run into a grizzly, unfortunately. The worst thing you can run into is a badger with a bad attitude, or a bull ram, or a stag in the rut. But running into a stag is fairly rare in some areas. I got to the gate of an old Roman road. I jumped the gate and checked the time. I had over 60 minutes before getting home. I continued walking and noticed the noises around me had changed. Birds had stopped singing, and the only wind was blowing in the tree. I felt I was being watched as I continued down the road, and something went from one side left of the road. Something went from one side left to right of the road, from one tree line to the other tree line, and popped out by the tree. Massive, dark figure for a second, then dispersed. I stopped. Had never seen anything like it. I still don't know what it was. It looked like a huge man who hadn't shaved and was ripped from the gym or on steroids. Only foxes and badgers are the top predator, and maybe a black cat, which are said to stalk the land, but that's another topic. I went to reach for my knife, and it felt like an eternity before I grabbed it. I had a choice: investigate what went across the road and in the wood and walk the same path through the woods, or jump the fence and run an extra 2 kilometers the other way around. I chose option 2 and legged it. The whole time checking my tail end, make sure nothing was following me. The sheep in the field also were spooked and had moved. Normally they come to you as they think you have fresh hay. They look petrified too. After this, I wasn't confident anymore, and I still feel this today. A couple years after, in the springtime, I went to my favorite spot on the mountain into a meadow and an old hardwood forest. They're hard to come by as most of the land was stripped and made way for conifers. Bluebells were in bloom and I was looking for rabbit warrens. Having little success, I packed up and walked a 2-kilometer march through the woods to the meadow. I called it Pandymauer. I walked up to an old oak tree which has been there since I was a little boy and probably been there for 100 years or so. I happened to catch a glance of a full-grown ewe up a dead tree. How the hell did it get up there? A buzzard can pick off a lamb and get that up there, but a ewe? Blood coming from its nose and mouth and looked like it had been battered. I suddenly felt unease, as if I was being watched, and the whole anxiety came over me. I backed out of there and made for the bridge as fast as I could, but you know when you're running and don't seem to get anywhere? Well, that's what it felt like. I did at one point, after talking to myself, somehow managed to end up back of the creek, looking across the meadow to the wood, with a horrible skin-crawling sensation something wasn't right. I got home and was quizzed. What? I got home and was quizzed. I'm the rabbits, but I felt sick and went to bed. Guess there's a typo in there. I was shaking, and to this day my hands shake badly, and it's only been since that time. Really? Weird. I take my daughter through the woods to enjoy the beauty that is nature, but I'm very conscious there is more out there than we know. There is. You're right. I heard stories around the area, and people are opening up, but most are ridiculed. So I won't say too much for the same fear. But that's life, I guess. I haven't told too many people this, and I have emailed Dave on the subject, as I am a search and rescue volunteer worker, and people like the U.S. people just vanish at random here too. And I wonder could I have just vanished those times? Anyway, I hope you're well, and I'm hoping to go to Canada one day to have a go at a moose or a black bear hunting. So if I'm in your neighborhood, I'll look you up. I'll need a guide. If you can keep up, LOL. Probably not. Kind regards, Hayden. There you go, Hayden. Appreciate that, man. You know, you are not the only one. Oh, itchy nose. To have emailed from the UK. Same description, same shit every time. But don't be too scared to talk about it now, right? I think we're, not just this channel. This channel doesn't take credit for everything, that's for sure. There's a lot of people out there speaking openly about this topic. A lot of channels are still pretty animated and trying to get clicks and likes or views, but I have a feeling there's a handful of people, no bullshit people out there now, which is encouraging people to talk about this normally, without being too worried about what the rest of the human herd is going to think, right? Thank God. But I have a funny feeling if you ask around in your neighborhood there where you leave your own footprint, somebody's going to know. Somebody else has seen what you've seen. I'll guarantee it. All right? And who knows, maybe they're watching this channel right now. We'll see. Maybe they'll comment in the comment section below. Or they will email me. You never know. Excuse me. I'm getting ready to go hunting for who knows how long. I'm going to give myself a month. Believe it or not. I'm going to do some serious hunting shortly. Solo again. And I may have found a cabin in the woods in northern British Columbia I'm going to go look at and possibly acquire. How exciting is that? Experience Central Manitoba Duck Mountains 2015. Hi, Steve. I'm from New England, and I went on a spring black bear hunt in May of 2015 with a friend who lives in central Manitoba. My friend has a registered trap line in the Duck Mountains Provincial Park, and he's had it for almost 25 years and traps it hard all winter. I've never doubted credible people who have had a Sasquatch experience. I was 54 when I had this experience. I have hunted and trapped 45 years in New England and never had a truly hair-raising experience until the May of 2015. It was the second day of the hunt. I was approximately 8 miles in the brush from the truck. We rode in double on an ATV, and my buddy dropped me off about 300 yards from the stand and bait. He left to go clear a trail about 3 miles from where he dropped me, and if I got a bear, I was to call him if he didn't hear the shot. If I didn't shoot anything, I was to walk back to the drop-off point at 9:30 p.m., as I had done previously. Now keep in mind, it was staying light fairly late. It was about 5 p.m. when I got to the bait and stand with no issues. I have no problem finding my way through the bush. I'd been in the stand about 3.5 hours and had only seen one small blonde bear that was no more than 150 pounds. My ass is getting tired of sitting on the bench, and I've been hearing birds and lots of grouse flutter all night. I noticed all the noise stopped, but didn't think an awful lot about it. At about 9, I heard quite a bit of noise up the trail at about 45 degrees from my left. I'm guessing 80 yards away, but I really couldn't see much due to a large spruce tree between us. I was sure it was my bear. I continued to hear the noise for what seemed like 10 minutes, and it sounded like a bear pulling bark from a dead tree. The noise stopped as quickly as it started. I was getting ready to call it quits when I saw movement 10 yards behind the bait. I thought it was a bear coming to the bait, but it traveled from left to right behind the bait and never approached it. As at this point, I didn't have a good view of what I was seeing, or if it was on 4 legs or 2. It came into view just to the right behind the bait in a small clearing, and I know it wasn't a bear. It never showed interest in the barrels of beaver and oil. And from my view, I'm guessing about 7 feet tall and black with a head that looked like a wrestler with no neck. It happened quickly. And I was looking down from the stand, and it was about 65 yards away. I didn't think it saw me at this point. And as I shifted my ass to see better, my rope I had used to pull my gun and pack up into the stand fell off the bench, and hung like a grapevine tied to the railing. It turned its torso from the waist up and stopped in its tracks and looked directly my direction. I almost shit myself at this point. I was afraid it would come toward me. Now I know it saw me because it quickly stepped out of view to my right in only a couple strides. This is the same direction I had to walk back to meet my ride. I sat there for what seemed like days trying to digest what happened. I called my friend and I told him I was ready to go. And I never mentioned what happened. Holy shit. It's amazing. That's still amazing to me every time I read it, which is thousands of times. The fact that people don't say shit, even right when it's going down. Zip. Radio silence. I walked the 300 yards to the pickup point with one in the tube and my finger on the safety. My eyes were bugged out of my head, expecting this thing to burst out of the spruce at any second. It was a welcome noise to hear that ATV coming on the cut road to get me. I was soaked in sweat to my socks. I did hunt another day with him at my side in a different area of the park, and took a 310-pound bear. He asked me several times if everything was okay. I was paranoid at every noise we heard and almost afraid to look in that direction. But I had to look like seeing a wreck on the highway. Sorry, but had to look like I'd seen a wreck on the highway. The only person I ever said anything to is my wife. She says it must have been a bear and looked different from the angle I was at. I know what I didn't see. I've been in stands looking down at bears from 5 to 150 yards, and they still look like bears. This was definitely on 2 legs and took long strides. I think the original noises I heard was him pulling deadfall apart for grubs or something. I've never mentioned this encounter to any other person. My friend has wanted me to go back several times to hunt. However, I haven't. He has a cabin a few miles beyond where this happened and says I can come up and stay the week in it and have the run of his RTL to hunt. This probably won't happen. I couldn't imagine trying to sleep there. Anyway, this wasn't a great news-breaking story. I would only hope to not even have an experience like it again. Thanks for all you do for the outdoor community, Scott. There you go, Scott. Sorry I ruined it for you, my man. I'm sorry I ruined it for you, but I get it. I mean, shit, I get it. See that thing, and then your buddy offers you up the cabin just right by there, and you go hang out there for a week. Yeah. It's reminded me when I was in that cabin with the wall getting hammered on. Shit, man. By myself, pitch black, no curtains, no lights outside, no phone. And you look out those windows, just pitch black, and you know whatever it was that did it was looking at you. Was looking at you at leisure. How long was I being looked at through those windows before it started smacking the back of the cabin over my head? I don't know. Who knows? But I know one thing: I wasn't going outside. I wasn't going outside, and I had a 303 British Lee Enfield rifle with a 9-round magazine for it, loaded. It was my bed in the bedroom. I just calmly got up and I went and got that gun out of the closet and jacked one in. Excuse me, put it back in the. I put it on the floor beside me on the couch. I just sat there and kept reading a book. What are you gonna do, right? What are you gonna do? But the chimney from the roof all the way down to the wood stove was rattling. And the next day that I went up behind, and that little cabin was against big mature timber, and there was some, I don't even know the name of the brush that was behind it, but there's bushes. Thick, 8-10 foot tall bushes were growing behind the cabin, which offered you up about that much space to shimmy between the wall of the cabin and that brush. Because I was thinking, oh, well, maybe, was there you started thinking of stupid excuses. Maybe the deer was stuck back there. There's no deer back there. And there's no way a deer would have made it 8 feet up the frickin' wall and started beating on the wall either, right? But anyway, blah, blah, and blah, but I'm just saying I get it. Unless you brought a friend, and you guys go hunt, right? Just speak openly, and when you go outside, just say it out loud. Just leave me alone. I know you're here now. I know you're here, for sure. You know I'm here, and I'm not here for you. So try not to be here for me. Just let me go hunting and enjoy my lifetime as best I can. Seems to be working for me. Oh, side note, 2 more eagle feathers in the horse barn last night. Sarah found them this morning. I don't even know where we at now. 10, 12, 14. 14 eagle feathers have been left to my property. Whatever. Whatever you get, whatever floats your boat. Now. Death. My grandfather and I had a conversation. I'm listening to your accounts from yourself and friends about people having experiences pertaining to the subject of death, or in my case, loss. You and I grew up very similar. My mother had a douchebag for a boyfriend, and my grandfather was and still is my hero. I lost him June 6, 1991. Yep, D-Day. He wasn't on Omaha Beach, but he was a badass that survived the Battle of the Bulge. Wow. I always played baseball as a kid, and my grandmother and grandfather never missed a game of mine. Until I was 13, they lived within 2 miles of the home I grew up in. They then moved about 60 miles away, but still attended every game I played in. That's freaking awesome, man. That's awesome. When my grandfather got sick with lung cancer, he passed within a few weeks and it hit me very hard. I was their only grandchild. From 7th grade to my junior year, he would be waiting outside the school in his conversion van with my clothes packed and fishing poles loaded for he and I to go head to a week-long fishing adventure. It's freaking awesome. My grandfather could tell hunting and fishing tales that would keep me glued to every word, though I had heard those stories millions of times. I was too dumb as a kid not to ask him questions about what he went through during his service in World War II. I could tell when he wasn't comfortable talking about it any longer, and I'd change the subject and lead him in the direction to tell me one of my favorite whitetail stories. And there were many. Anyway, I've had 2 different encounters with him since his passing over the last... I've had 2 different encounters with him since his passing over the last almost 29 years. The day we buried him, there was a function after the service. I had a scheduled baseball practice that obviously my coach was understanding if I didn't go, and honestly, they didn't intend on seeing me. I talked to my grandmother and mother about going. For me, it was the best way to deal with losing my hero. And a week later, I had a game that I started on the mound. I sucked. I got lit up for 4 runs in 3 innings. My teammates put 2 runs back on the board in the bottom of the 3rd. Now it's 4-2. Bad guys. I tightened it up in the 4th and got out of the inning with the score the same. I was hitting 3rd that inning. One of my teammates drew a walk. One made an out. I was facing a pretty hard throwing lefty and got down in the count 1-2 pretty quick. I called time and stepped out of the box. While looking over to where my grandfather used to sit, I noticed my grandmother, and then it got strange. I saw a bird flying past my grandmother, turn, and go over the scoreboard. I thought it was kind of strange, but a bird in a ball yard isn't really that weird, right? The next pitch, the kid left me a fastball middle away, and I turned on it. I know I barreled it pretty well. I took off out of the box hard and took a peek to see if I was digging for 2nd or 3rd when the ball left over the wall exactly where the bird just flew over the scoreboard in the left center. That's the only homer I ever hit in 3 years of playing Babe Ruth baseball. I felt a calmness, yet excitement, and almost like it was his way of letting me know he was all right and still there at the game. About 10-12 years ago, the second encounter of whatever you want to call it happened. Now at this point, I'd met my wife. I was taking care of my stepdaughter, and my son was just a toddler. I'd take my son for rides and brag about what a stud of a man his great-grandpa was and how he would always make time to take me hunting and fishing. And one night, I had a dream. But like many, I've had millions of dreams. I do remember most of my dreams, and I wake up from the fighting ones where you can't punch as hard as you want, or when you can't run as fast as you want. Don't you hate that? I hate that. Or the jumping over something, it's a long cliff. Then waking up just before hitting the bottom. Yeah, falling when you're in a dream is one of the worst too. This dream, if you will, was my grandfather and I walking in the greenest field I've ever seen, talking. We sat down on an old stone wall and just talked about everything and nothing. The only emotions I remember from that was how real it felt, how calming it was. Yet I kept asking him, "This won't last much longer, will it? And can you come do this more often?" He wouldn't answer me, and I asked numerous times. The final time after asking, and us chatting some more, he looked at me and told me, "I want you to know how proud of you for the man you've grown up to be." That's when I woke up. I was disappointed our conversation had ended, but I felt a sense of calm and happiness all that day. I have no proclaimed religion. I believe if we all treat one another as we want to be treated and help those who are in need, that should be good enough to get to the other side. The thing I find strange about this is most dreams we control. It's usually the last thing we're thinking about before we fall asleep. I've never been able to replicate anything close to that night again. Obviously, I'd love to if possible. So maybe it's not possible. Anyway, thank you for the time reading this. If you wish to read it, you're welcome to. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me. Sorry about your horse and companion. I lost my black lab 2 years ago. The only fault I've ever found with pets and grandparents is neither live long enough. Please don't use my full name if you do read this. It's not out of fear or ridicule, but I'm just not a fan of being at the center of any attention. There you go, read and shared. It's an older email that wasn't marked as read. I think it was older. But we got the second channel too, right? And a lot of the other channel, the backup channel, has all the repeat videos replaying, so you could have just watched that. But that's interesting. I don't think I've had anybody come to me in a dream, except when I was living in Mount Currie. I did have very, very vivid dreams of 3 or 4 of these beings. And I remember waking up thinking, holy shit, that was clear. I even clearly saw their faces and everything. And they were like right there. And I felt vulnerable in the dreams, but nothing bad happened to me. And it was like, it involved a barn, a rural field, abandoned farm. And, yeah, I don't know what was up with those dreams, because I do not dream about Bigfoot. I don't think I've had, but I remember having a string of dreams with those exact, it was so vivid, it was ridiculous. And that was probably like 5 years ago or something. But I'm just saying, I don't think I've had anybody come to me in a dream that I remember, unless I'm finally getting old enough I'm forgetting shit. I don't know. I'm glad you had your grandfather. Yeah, sorry to hear your mom had a monster, but it's crazy how many of our parents bring monsters into our lives, isn't it? When your kids are all, you kids out there, you know what I'm talking about, you guys. It's so weird. I don't get it. I still don't get it. But I don't think too many parents understand the damage. They're not, I guess most people don't get any instructions on how to be a parent. I mean, you gotta have a license to have a dog, right? Not a kid. You just go out and make one. Hope for the best. It's gonna go out and make a kid and hope for the best. Hope I don't screw it up. You can hear my kid barking out back, maybe. My dog. But yeah. Broken families and people coming into children's lives that aren't their children. So many times it's created so much damage. But obviously there's a lot of people out there who did play that role great and were great people. But they're few and far between. But I don't understand how people can still persist in diving in there. And diving into that family unit. That mom and those kids, or that dad and those kids. And stick it out knowing you're annihilating everything. That's pretty dark, right? That's pretty dark. If you do that, you're a lowlife. I had a couple lowlives come into my life, tell you what. But anyway, blah, blah. All right, I'm better go, I'm going to shoot my bow one more time. Man, there's dust in here. I got to get a little vacuum cleaner in here. Can't see it, but it lands on me nonstop. I'm going to shoot my bow a couple times and get some more things done, see how Sarah's doing. And I should be able to make my way back here tomorrow, but we'll see. If I'm feeling a little better, I'm going out. I'm going to float the river or something. I'm going to do something. I can't sit inside like this all the time. Maybe tomorrow I'll take you guys somewhere. Go see a huge bear or something. There's another monster bear down the road from here right now. Share my story at howtohunt.com. That's where you get your truth shared, right? Make sure you get me your truth. And I think Sarah's got some emails going back and forth with some people to come back on here with me. Oh, she said to remind you there's a mail strike on, but I guess they're doing some kind of alternating, so there's one tiny window every few weeks where she can get some shit out, and I think she's working on getting orders out right now. What is it? It's toque season. I think she's got more of these. 'Tis the season, right? She's got all sorts of shit. The howtohuntstore.com, you can check that out. Go to the website. Links for whatever you might be interested in are there. And I'm going to get going. I'm going to get some more of her potion that she made. Some kind of broth. She put some tiger balm all over my chest. Man, yesterday was like, when you cough and it hurts every time you cough? That was yesterday. Anyway, there you go. I'll be back tomorrow, you guys. I appreciate everyone. I appreciate everyone big time. I'll be back tomorrow.